Hello. So this evening we are going to do a test flight in the Airbus A330. This is the headwind Airbus A330 that's available for free from FlightSim.2. So this is actually a fork of the fly-by-wire project to make a much bigger jet, but much of the internals, the avionics, are identical to the fly-by-wire. So we'll find out how different it is along the way, and we'll go and have a fly in it. So you can see on the ground it's obviously very much bigger than the Airbus. You can just see from the ground vehicles around it and other aircraft parked nearby. It's enormous. Okay, so let's go and jump inside. Before we get going, let's go and have a look at the route. So we are at St. Vincent of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, a small island, and we're going to fly up to Martinique. So we're going to do an interesting standard instrument departure and fairly straightforward star to get there, just to put the airplane through its paces really, see if it follows the autopilot, and we'll have some fun along the way. Okay, so we go and jump in the airplane. This is an Airbus, and an Airbus is an Airbus is an Airbus, or that's almost always the case. So I'm going to go through the checklist for the fly-by-wire A320 as we look around the aircraft, and we'll see how we get on. So, first things first, we go and look up overhead, and I'm going to have a check of the keys. It looks like it uses the same keys. Control and 8 does the panel above our heads. So first things first, we turn the batteries on, and that seems to work identically to the 320. We turn external power on if it's available, and it is available, so now we have external power. Let's just check the volumes before we go any further. So you can hear me over the top of the airplane, okay? Yeah, that all looks good. Okay, so external light section, bottom left, we turn the strobes to auto and nav and logo to 2. So strobes go to auto, and this goes to 2. APU section, master switch to on, and then start the APU. We go and turn the crew supply to on. We turn the emergency exit light to armed. So that's over here. Flick it forwards, and no smoking to auto. Okay, that's done. And now we go and switch all of the ADIRS systems to nav. Now let's go and just double check this, if this is actually based on the fly-by-wire. Notice the cockpit's a lot bigger. So yeah, it's got the modern version of this. So I'm just going to check in here in the realism sections. ADIRS align time is on real. So this is actually going to be interesting. So yes, you can see we've got no data showing up on these screens yet. We'll leave it like that because we've got to go and program a route anyway, so we're not in a huge hurry. So while we're here, let's go and brighten up some controls around the cockpit. So we'll see if these work the same. These are slightly laid out differently than the A320. So you can see we've got the brightness for this screen, and then the inner knob here should do that one. Should be the same on the other side. So then on the central ECAM screens, got the two knobs here. Got the brightness on this. This already looks pretty bright, so we're not going to meddle with that. This doesn't look very bright, so we can roll this knob to brighten it up, and we can brighten up the back inlay behind the master control panel. Okay, so that's the brightness is done. So then we go to the MCDU. So if we press Control and 5, yes, this is the same mapping of the position. So first thing we do is go FMGC, and it says GPS primary lost. That's because it hasn't got the ADIRS alignment yet. So then we can go into init, and we can put in our route. So if we go and double check against little nav map, we're going from TVSA, which is Argyle International. So TVSA, which we're typing into the scratchpad down here, and we're going over to TFFF, or Tango Foxtrot Foxtrot Foxtrot. we put that into the from and to and return. So that's done. Cost index we'll put in 100. Flight level we're going to go to 18,000 feet, or we're going to hope to go to 18,000 feet. The IRS initialization, we should be able to say, yeah, it doesn't work quite the same as a Boeing. We can say align on ref, confirm, and return. And it should be good to go with that. So then we can go and program our route, obviously. So if we had a sim brief flight plan, we could use a wind request and go and pull the data from their operational flight plan data, but we haven't got that, so we're not going to bother. Let's go to the next page in here. So we'll put in our zero fuel weight. It can calculate it itself if we just click on it. So that goes in. Block fuel, we can cheat. This will be 50% full of fuel, as the aircraft always are in flight sim, so 11.38 or 11.3 as far as this is concerned. Like I said, this is a long haul jet and it can carry many tons of fuel and can travel for an extreme distance. Okay, so we've got where we're going from and to, and we've got some basics of the data. We now need to tell the aircraft how we are departing and arriving. So we'll go into the flight plan and go to TVSA, set the departure. We're going to take off runway 04 and we're doing the Lena 1A standard instrument departure and insert that into our flight plan. Then when we arrive at Martinique, we are going to arrive on runway 10Z with the ILS, and we are going to use the SOMO 1X star. So you can see it's not here, so we can push the contents of the screen upwards until we get to the SOMO. Ah, there is no... oh, there it is. SOMO 1X. There we go. So we got ILS 10, SOMO 1X. We're not going to bother with a via, and we'll insert that. So if we go and look at the flight plan page now, we should be able to see it all the way through to the destination. Excuse me if I'm coughing. I don't feel particularly well today, but I'm doing this anyway. So there are no discontinuities, so it's all looking good. We can double check that. If we come and look and put, oh, this isn't in, still hasn't aligned. So we'll go and busy ourselves with putting the performance data in while we're waiting. So, and obviously now we've put all the data in, we can get it to calculate the V-speeds. Oh, it's not going to let us. Now, why is that? What have I missed? Flaps, we haven't put flaps in. Flaps 1. We're not going to bother with flex temp. Transition altitude. We're not going to look at the charts to find that out. Is that all we needed? Yeah. We just needed the flap level to determine the rotate speeds, which is good. So it looks like this so far is identical to the A320 in terms of avionics. So, so that's all done. How are we getting on with the... Yay, we have alignment. So this is not red anymore. So if we then go and change this to nav mode, we can see that interesting SID circling around. So it all looks very good. So if we want to, we could go into the flight plan page and we can rotate our way through the flight plan. He says, famous last words. Oh, maybe they haven't done... oh, it's the plan page, isn't it? Not nav. There we go. There we go. So we can center each waypoint and have a look at the journey just to make sure it all makes sense. And that's into the destination. Perfect. So we'll turn this back to arc mode. Okay. So we've programmed the flight plan. The ADS is aligned while we were busy, so that's, you know, everything's aligned here now. That's all looking good. We're going to go and have a look at the MCP. We're going to have all of that on managed mode. That's all good. We're climbing out to 10,000 feet to begin with, so we'll set that as our target altitude in managed mode. We need to calibrate the altimeters, so we'll press B to shortcut that. So you can see it hardly moved. It was almost the same as standard. So overhead panel, control 8 again. Go and turn the seat belts on, because we're about to go and get the engines up and running. The APU will be up and running by now, so we can turn off the external power. Crossfeed happens automatically in an Airbus. So we do pushback if we need it. Let's have a look outside. Do we need pushback? We probably do. So let's go, and I'm just going to use the old-fashioned Shift P method of doing this. So if we look at, we can see the tractor coming in. We'll come off the parking brake. And while that's happening, should we get the engine up and running? So we need to go and turn the beacon lights to on. Fuel pumps to on.
Doors and cross-check.
So here's the fuel pumps. We probably need to remove the chock, because I think that's in here, isn't it? Are we going to find it? Oh, they've done it for us. So just doing the pushback has removed the chocks automatically. So we are being pushed back. While we're being pushed back, we can go and put the APU bleed on, and we can start the engines. So you can see that N2 is coming up. It's very cool, isn't it? So you can see the exhaust gas temperature on engine number 2 is coming up. So let's make sure we don't get pushed back too far. So we'll say thank you very much to the truck. Put the parking brake back on until he's out of the way. And we will start engine. We didn't have the ignition on, did we? And it still started without ignition. Okay, that's a fault in the aircraft. It shouldn't have fired up. Okay, we'll move the flaps to position 1, which I'm just doing over here. You'll see the flaps travelling soon. There they go. Okay, so we're just waiting for the engines to come up, and then once they are ready, we'll be good to get on our way. It's interesting that you'll see the exhaust gas temperature raise and then fall again. Yeah, it falls quite dramatically when it does come down. Okay, so engines are running. Predictive wind shear is not on yet, so we flick the little switch down here. That turns on the predictive wind shear. TCAS is on standby, so we can turn. I'm going to do this early. Normally you wouldn't do this until you're in the air, but it's just so we don't forget. We can turn the. We can then turn the APU bleed. You can. It's funny, isn't it? As soon as we went for TA, it triggered the takeoff sound. So parking brake is still on, ignition is still on, so we can turn the ignition off now. Above our heads we can go and turn off the APU bleed, and the APU is fine. And that's it. So we're going to go and taxi out. So let's go and have a look at the runway. We need to double back then and then turn right, and then backtrack on the runway basically. So parking brake off, There's a small amount of positive thrust. This is going to be some fun and games to turn this round at the end of the runway. I'm hoping there's some extra apron there to turn around on. It's a huge hulking giant. Okay. Something we didn't look up is what the transition altitude is around here. So we're just going to rumble down to the end of the runway. Oh, there's a huge delay on the steering. That's fine. So again, this is very much a journey of discovery with this aircraft to see how it behaves. I think I've flown it a very long time ago, but not seen it for a while. I mean, you can see it's a wide body, it's huge. Yeah, we have got some extra apron, which is perfect. So we will turn right and then come back onto the runway. So we're leaving everything on managed mode as far as the aircraft is concerned. Such a big lump, isn't it? Okay, just centre this up on the runway and then we'll go for it. So toga on the throttles. Quite a lot of left rudder required, but I guess that's the tail being hit by the wind. There is no call out, so I'm going to nose up myself. So gear up. Auto throttle is on. Flaps up. And autopilot on. And throttles to the CL detent. So they're into the centre there, and the plane should fly itself now. So we can have a look out from outside. I should put the landing lights on below 10,000 feet. Which is one switch on this aircraft by the look of it, which is interesting to me. But the strobes on, they can go on auto actually. It should have enough sense to do that itself. And there we go. Very undramatic takeoff. Didn't need much runway at all, did it? So it'll just be interesting to see how accurately it follows the plan. It looks like it's doing a remarkably good job at it, actually. So you can see it following the track. Flight director is absolutely on the money. Holding 250 knots till we get to 10,000 feet, obviously. Because we're not following an exact route today, I'm going to go straight for 18,000. So we're going to push the knob in for the altitude at 18,000, which will cause it to go straight through 10,000 feet. It should accelerate automatically when it gets to 10,000 feet. It'll be interesting to see if that happens. Because it's managed speed, it's going to use, you know, best use of the parameters. Normally this part of the world, I think it's usually 6,000 feet on the barometric pressure on the, sorry, the QNH. So we'll pull this, move it to standard already. We didn't, the reason it wasn't flashing, we didn't program the barometric, the QNH altitude into the, sorry, transition altitude, listen to me. We didn't program the transition altitude into the performance data, which is why it didn't start flashing at us. There you go, look, it's moved the target airspeed up to 290 knots now. So it's slowly accelerating, and it's making a good job of doing the turns. So if we go and have a look at little nav map and zoom out, we can see that happening. It's pretty good. So it should end up flying straight out to Linal and then on to Martinique. So we can probably go and turn the seatbelt sign off now. Let people go and rush to the toilet. Big old plane though, isn't it? I wonder if the doors work correctly. There's no controls for the doors here. Oh, there's this one here, cockpit door. And can we unlock it? Presumably it doesn't actually do anything. Can we walk through it? Yes, we can. Oh, and they've modelled the interior. I guess I shouldn't be surprised. It's kind of basic modelling, but it's kind of impressive that they've even bothered. So if we go through the curtain, yeah, there's only bits of the interior have been done then, which is quite common with aircraft in the flight simulator. So it's usually done to help with the views. So if you went and looked through the various views, it'll be for the showcase views. So let's go and have a look at that while it's flying along. Waste some time. So if we go for the showcase views and go and flick through them, yeah, so that's why there's a bit of the cabin done for you, to make these views work. That's exactly what they sound like. I know, because I've sat in that seat. That's quite spooky how much that sounds like the real thing. Obviously once you get further away from the engines you can't hear it. Yeah, I've sat about there on a real one as well. That's quite interesting how they've modelled that so well. How are we doing on the volumes? So yeah, you can hear me over it, that's fine. Okay, so if we increase the range on this now, we can see there's Linal we're coming up to in about 25 miles time. If we zoom out even further, you'll see the entire rest of the route that will draw in as this rotates around. So I'm going to pause recording.
Gentlemen, once again from the flight deck, and Captain speaking. We've just reached our cruising altitude for the flight. As it's going to settle in, I do want to remind you to please keep your feet elbows clear from the aisle as the flight attendants will be coming through the cabin with galley carts shortly. Also, one more reminder to please refrain from congregating to the front galley where the flight deck door is located. Thank you.
That's very cool, isn't it? So they'll be giving out all the sandwiches in the back. We've probably got just enough time on this flight to do one round of sandwiches through the cabin, or a quick round of orange juices or something. So yeah, I'm going to pause recording, and when I unpause we will magically be at the top of descent so we can follow our way in to the destination. So I'll see you in a few moments. Okay, so we're back again, and if we go and have a quick look at the navigation display, we can see our route in. If we go and have a look at middle nav map, you can see there's our top of descent marker. We're going to actually start descending before that because we're going to have a play with some of the instrumentation on board. But to begin with, we'll come down to 3,000 feet in one go, and we'll say go manage mode to do that. So we push the knob in and the aircraft is coming. You can't actually see it happen because the throttles don't move on an Airbus, but you can see the engines are winding back. You can see the N1 percentage dropping back there, and then once it's done so, the nose will drop. Yeah, so it's maintaining the target airspeed. It will do a step descent because it will need to decelerate along the way, but we can help it. If we want to do a steeper descent, we can throw the spoilers out.
Gentlemen, as you may have noticed, we have begun our initial descent down to our destination. Now would be a good time to wrap up any business you need to take care of as we prepare for approach. If you are up, once you return to your seat, we ask that you remain seated until the aircraft arrives safely at the gate. Flight attendants, please prepare the cabin for a ride.
It's very cool, isn't it? So we'll go and turn on the seatbelt sign in a moment. We'll wait till we're a little bit lower before we do it. Whoever cleaned the windscreen on this needs a talking to, don't they? It's a bit of a mess. So as I said earlier, we haven't used an accurate transition altitude for this flight, so we're going to go and have a look at the data for Martinique, and if we go for the weather page, we should be able to find out 1014 hectopascals or 2994 inches. So if we take this back off of standard, we want to take this to 2994, and then this agrees with our altitude above sea level in relation to the barometric pressure at the destination airfield. So again, normally you wouldn't do that until you get to a transition altitude. The reason you have an agreed altitude for everybody to do that in the same area is so aircraft in the same area are relating to the same altitude above sea level, calibrated the same as each other. So if if two planes are at 3,000 feet, they really are at the same altitude as each other, for example. So therefore ATC can enforce some separation through altitudes. Okay, so you can see the speeds coming down to 10,000 feet as we get closer, sorry, coming down to 250 knots as we get to 10,000 feet. But in commercial aviation law, you're not allowed to go faster than 250 knots below 10,000 feet. Something we forgot to do completely along the way was turn the landing lights off when we were above 10,000 feet. So that landing light switch should have been off, but we'll leave it on now because we're on our way back down. Just goes to show the number of things you have to remember to do that are just procedural. Obviously, you'd normally have two of you working through a checklist, one of you checking, the other doing things, and almost like a tandem act around the cockpit, with each person having a job and communicating to the other what they are doing, what has been done, using very specific language so no mistakes are made. Okay, so what we can do along the way is we're not getting the markers show up, are we, for our target altitude along the way. So let's see if it will show up if we go to vertical speed mode. So if we go to selected altitude mode and come down at 3,000 feet per minute, for example, it's not showing the green banana, as they call it, is it? Which is quite interesting. I mean, we're not going to worry too much, we'll just stick it on managed mode. So on managed mode, what rate of descent is it going to try and do? It's still doing 3,000 feet a minute. Oh hello, the sim is having problems connecting to the internet. What a surprise. So we're about 50 miles from the airfield now. We are not going to have to go to... This aircraft came down a lot more quickly than I thought it was going to. So we're going to level out at 5,000 feet. So I'm impressed by that. This aircraft actually descended very, very quickly. And we've reconnected to the internet. Hurrah! Means we get to see the sea on the way in. You can see the water whizzing past. Get to see the reefs and the wind blowing across the waves and the tidal patterns. That's something I think Flight Simulator does incredibly well, actually, is the patterns on the water. If you look out there, it's very, very nicely done. Okay, so let's go and reduce the range on this. So we're coming up to Carrick's. We're getting some information about the fuel transfer program that's going on. So in the Airbus there's nothing to do really. You turn the pumps on and they activate themselves as they need to drain the tanks in the appropriate order. Obviously on a more accurate version of the Airbus you can actually get involved in that and push the fuel around yourself. Notice we've got a thing here saying enter destination data. What that is about is in the performance it wants the data about the QNH at the destination. So what did we say it was? 10. I did say a moment ago, didn't I? That's the fuel report. There's the weather. 1014 hectopascals. So 1014. Temperature at the destination 25 centigrade. Magnetic direction and speed of the wind is 105/10. Transition altitude, we didn't bother with that. Let's put 6,000 in. And we should be good. Next phase. We're not going to do a go around. We're going to do this easily. What are they talking about? Why would we need to go around? Something that might be interesting to look at though is the ILS frequency. Just to make sure it's tuned in correctly. 109.90, 95 degrees. So if we go and look in the nav radio section, 109.90, 95, Perfect. So one of the advantages of the Airbus is when you program your route, it automatically programs the destination ILS frequency, so it will come up automatically. So when we switch the left hand knob here on the master control panel over to landing system, obviously the symbology changes here. We can do it now, won't make any difference. But it'll make more sense when we get past that last waypoint and come in towards the runway. So we need to be at 2,500 feet above the ground when we come into the ILS here. So we are just approaching Carex. It needs to be above 2,000 feet there, so that's fine. We're at 5,000, so let's come down to 2,500 and let the aircraft do it at the rate it wants to. So you can see the nose dipping there. The radius rings you can see on the navigation display, they are caused by having the TCAS system, the traffic collision avoidance system, switched on. So that's what renders the radius rings. If you look when you get really close, there's a 2-mile line indicated by small lines. That's when the alarm goes off. If something gets within 2 miles of you, a klaxon starts going, basically. Hey, so we're getting closer. We switch this over to, there we go, it's switched over now to runway direction. When we get a bit closer, you'll see the glide slope appear as well. So there's no localizer line yet, there's no frequency yet, but it's switched over to the details of the destination. So the course now reflects the runway direction. When we get a bit closer, that will make more sense. That's one of the nice things about an Airbus, if it's programmed properly. There we go, we've reached our target altitude. One of the nice things about this is you can change. You can obviously have different things on each side, so we can see the map of where we are, as well as the horizontal situation indicator.
2,500.
Okay, so I'm going to start slowing us down, even though it should be doing it itself. Let's go and tell it to come down to 180 knots now. Actually less than that, let's go for 160 straight away. So you can see the speed is coming off, but not tremendously quickly. So I'm going to throw the spoilers out. If you look outside, you can see the spoilers are these flaps alongside each wing. It's going to be quite a pretty approach, isn't it? Okay, so we go for flaps now. And gear down as well.
Flight attendants, please prepare for landing.
2,500.
Just checking the lights are all on. Looking good. Still can't see a glide slope, but you wouldn't expect to be honest. Let's go and have a look from outside as we're approaching. It's quite a pretty approach. Normally you wouldn't have come in this low. This is me just winging it for this flight. Normally you'd be aiming to get to 2,500 feet at the feathers. Hooray! There we go, we've got signal. So the course deviation indicator is right in the middle of the HSI, which is perfect. And the glide slope marker, the upwards arrow means the diamond is off of the gauge, above the gauge. So it should appear on it. So what we should be able to do is go to approach mode, and it will continue flying level until it hits the glide slope, and then it will start descending on the glide slope. Can we go for third stage of flaps here?
2,500.
Yes, we can. So you can actually see the runway out there in the distance. We're absolutely in line with it. See now, I almost want to fly this myself just to see what it handles like, rather than just use the autopilot all the way, because it's quite boring.
2,500.
So should we come off of the autopilot and fly it by hand? Because yes, it can do an auto landing, and just to prove what I'm talking about, we could actually go and turn on both autopilots. And you can see over here, look, Cat 3 dual, it's all working, so this will land itself. But that's no fun. So I'm going to turn the autopilot off and the auto throttle, and let's fly it. Okay. So just to give you some idea, let's go and climb onto the glide slope. Opening the engines gently just to get us up there, and we're on the glide slope, so nose back down. Let's try turning a little bit to see how it behaves while turning. So it's quite lumbering and slow to turn, so you have to plan well ahead then. It's not the most manoeuvrable thing in the sky. We're a little bit fast. Obviously we're off to the left now because we've just turned, but not by much.
2,500.
Okay, we're a little bit high. Just drop the nose down. Going to scoot just underneath these clouds, which is quite cool. Should get some nice pretty views of the bay underneath the cloud. We're off to the right now. So full flaps. Let's get that glide slope back in the ballpark. Just decelerating to see where the stall line is, so it's about 120 knots, which is amazing for such a big aircraft. So we're off to the right, so we're just steering left a little. Yeah, so yeah, 120 knots, look, we can hang around at 120. I'm just going to pull away, get to at least 140. It's a bit dangerous coming in so slow. You've got no room for error basically. So there's a bit of a crosswind. You can see over here there's a 12 knot crosswind across the runway. It's pushing us off to the right, so we're just going to counter that. We're going a little bit high, getting a bit fast. That's interesting.
1,000.
Look at that thing pushing around. So that's gusting, the wind. Interesting. So we're high. So get back on the glide slope. I'm essentially off the throttles completely, look, and it's not dropping speed too much. It's amazing, actually.
500.
And we've got no... Oh, the glide slope's just dropped off the bottom, that's fine. It's a lovely long runway.
300.
Too low. Terrain.
200.
So the radar altimeter suddenly saw the hill.
100. 50. 40. 30. 20. Retard. 10.
And we're down. So let's try the reverses. Whoa, they were powerful. The nose stayed up very, very late, so I wonder about the flight model there. So let's go and put the flaps up. Go and turn off the landing lights. Yeah, that was a bit strange that the nose held up in the air until very, very late, but then it may have been down to the centre of gravity. I didn't actually look at the loadout of the aircraft to see what the default loadout was. I noticed when we came off the runway at the departure airfield, it may be that it's completely empty, there's no baggage, no passengers, in which case, you know, a huge aeroplane with a massive wing area and no payload is going to fly like a kite, basically. So let's go and park up over here somewhere. I think the actual the gates were further on, but oh well. We'll park in the middle of here for this evening. So that was interesting. It's good fun. It's obviously very big and very heavy, but you saw we absolutely. The short field performance, if you have an empty aircraft, was spectacular. When it's full, I imagine it will be a completely different kettle of fish. But there you go, the Airbus A330. I'm going to leave it there. I'm not going to bother going through the whole spin down, because it's just the same as starting up but in reverse. It's all quite boring. But anyway, hopefully you enjoyed that, and I'll see you again soon. So that was the A330 from Headwind, which is available for free in the FlightSim.2 store. Okay, see you soon.